What's up, everyone? Alright, so like I start off every video, I want to say that I'm active daily on all my other social media platforms. The link's going to be in the bio for my Twitter, my Instagram, and my TikTok account. Um, I'm ma- I'm mostly active on TikTok. Whenever there's anything new that happens or anything major that happens in the sports world. Right now it's football. TikTok and Twitter will end up getting it first. But today, I actually wanted to dive in on a recap of week 3. The top 25 ranking came out also. And I'm going to kind of dive into my top 25 ranking because every week I will put out my own top 25 that I put on Twitter and I put on Instagram. And I do a little review of it on my TikTok account. I always put one of those out every single week. It's going to be a little different than the AP, but not quite different. There's some slight changes in there that I made, but I'll explain it all. First off, I want to just state Georgia right now, compared to the rest of college football, they're the best team. There's no doubt about it. There's not even a team close right now compared to Georgia. When you think of how UGA's been playing and how their offense has been able to put up points, how Stinson Bennett's been playing, how their defense was able to recoup after losing so many players, and all the young stars that they got that are really balling out, there's not too many questions that I got about, where they're going to go as a program, what else can they do, and stuff like that. The main questions that I have for UGA is, can Stinson Bennett stay consistent? Can Stinson Bennett continue to lead this offense like he's doing? And I don't have no doubts, honestly, if he can do it. I feel like he could lead us, and he will lead us to another SEC championship game. And then the only other thing that I have a question about when it comes to their team is, can these young stars and these young guys on defense continue to play at a high level? Other than that, the next teams that I see even competing with Georgia, obviously Ohio State, and Alabama. Outside of that, unless Oklahoma continues doing what they're doing and somehow Michigan, I just don't believe in Michigan, but if Michigan stays doing what they're doing with their offense and defense, those are two more teams you can add into the bunch on who is going to knock Georgia off their mound. Well, outside of that, you had really the only major upset of the week was Washington beating Michigan State. Washington, let me talk about Washington real quick. Before this week even started, I had no clue about their team. I had no clue about their quarterback, where their offense was, how many points they put up a game, how many yards they're putting up, what their defense is allowing, stuff like that. I have not played Washington no attention. And after Saturday's game, I was like, I have to look and see what this team has been doing all season. So I went back and I watched a couple videos, a couple film review recaps of the past two games, and I was just like, this team, it could be a challenger in the Pac-12. Do I see them winning it? No. USC, which I'm going to talk about my broad division winners who I see coming out of each conference. But could Washington compete for it? The way they're playing, most definitely. Their offense right now is ranked in the top 5 among all of college football. Now that's also due part, they have the first 2 games I wouldn't really count as top level teams. But Michigan State, I would consider being a top level team, top 25, definitely top 25 team without a doubt. But they were able to still put up, almost 40 points. They put up 39 points on them and let them all game. So you take that game in consideration, that's their first true test of the season. They were able to really compete, put up a lot of points. Their defense didn't really show up too much. So their defense played good, but towards the end of the game, it started letting up. That's the scary part when you got to think, like, USC has a really good offense. So when they start doing conference play with the Pac-12 and you got USC and you got Oregon, you got two teams right there that could really hurt you if your defense doesn't play to a high caliber. But outside of that, Washington's really surprised me. I did not expect, when I was reviewing these games for week 3, I was not expecting Washington to be one of those schools to pull up an upset. I honestly thought they were going to lose. I thought Michigan State was going to win it. They shocked me. I had my doubts, and I'm definitely going to keep watch on them after this week because I'm really curious on what they could do in the Pac-12 and see what kind of competition they can give USC. When it comes to the top 25, the AP poll, I don't know. I don't like the way the AP poll is ranked for what they're going into week 4. So you have UGA at 1, followed by Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, and Clemson. That's your top 5 right there. And automatically, there's 2 teams already that I don't even like seeing in the top 5. I don't. And I was watching, honestly, I was actually watching 24/7 Sports. And I was watching one other sports analysis show. I think it was on CBS. And, they were saying that, Michigan hasn't had no top tier teams that they've been playing. They've been playing real low opponents. But they've been doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're, blowing them out. Their defense is winning the game. Yes, okay, they've been doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So, I'm not going to knock them out of my top 10. I'm not going to do that. But the way I judge my top 10 is how have they performed so far? What level of competition have they played? And have they performed extremely well? And if they played real high competition and they dominate the real high competition, obviously I'm going to rank them higher than a team that's dominating low-end competition. That's just the way I look at it. Now, the AP poll, they ranked it off of, preseason. This is all preseason, yada, yada, yada. And, they just make adjustments to week in and week out how these teams perform based off of preseason predictions. That's my take on it. Now, I could be completely wrong, and that's okay, but that's my take on it. But to round out the top 10, you have Oklahoma at 6, USC at 7, Kentucky, Oklahoma State, and Arkansas. That's the round out your top 10. I don't really have a lot of problems with this top 10. There's no real undeniable contenders in this. There's like no team. In this top 10, I don't see a single team that couldn't compete for their conference championship in this top 10. And that's something that I want to see. Like, your top 10 should be filled of teams that are competing for that conference championship. Not necessarily national championship, but conference championship. That's definitely your top 10. And guys who could win conference championships and move into the playoffs. Are they going to win it? Probably not, because you got Alabama, you got Georgia, and you got Ohio State. Those are your 3, 1, 2, and 3. Like, those guys are going to take 1, 2, and 3 up at the end of the year. Alabama's going to get in there regardless on how that SEC championship goes. That's my prediction. But I'll get into that a little bit later. Then your top 5, follow out 11 through 15. You got Tennessee, NC State, Utah, Penn State, and Oregon. and I have so much wrong. There's so much that I just do not like about the 11 through 15 whatsoever. NC State, ranked number 12. Have you not seen, like, does the AP and all these voters, do they just look at they're an ACC team and they're undefeated, so they're going to be top 15? They nearly lost to ECU in week 1. They only won by 13 to Texas Tech. Their defense is atrocious. They allow almost 300 yards passing a game. And once they start playing real high running teams that have really good running backs and really good high motor running offenses, their defenses and they're going to shit the bucket. Like, their defense is not going to compete whatsoever. And then Oregon at 15, I can see it, but I don't like it. But when it comes, when you think about who's left on the top 25, everyone else has already lost the game. You only have 2 or 3 teams that are undefeated, 16 through 25. And those teams really haven't played nobody to be considered, better than Oregon. Because you got to think, Oregon's only lost to the season to the number 1 team in the country. And then you turned around and beat, a top 15 team in Baylor. So I can see why Oregon's that high, and I respect it. That's also why I have them at 15 on my top 25. But the round out the AP poll, you got Ole Miss at 16, Baylor at 17, Washington after the upset at 18, BYU at 19, Florida at 20, Wake at 21, followed by Texas and Texas A&M at 22 and 23, Pitt at 24, and you close it out with 25 Miami. Ole Miss is at 16. There's not too much to complain there. I like it. Washington, Baylor, BYU. So here is where my problem lies. 17 through 19. BYU beat Baylor, but lost to Oregon. Okay. But Baylor's ranked higher than BYU. Alright. But Washington, who's undefeated and upset a ranked 11 team, is ranked lower than both of them, which is their first top 15 win of the season, yada, yada, yada. That's their first true competition. You can't really just throw them in the top 15. Alright. So, 18, justifiable. They beat a top 15 team. They're in the top 25 now. They keep winning. They're going to move up. But Baylor over BYU, I just don't see it. I would not put... If Georgia lost to Alabama, Georgia's not going to be ranked number 1. Alabama's going to be ranked number 1. I'm not going to put a team who lost to a team over the other team. Okay, that was a bad... I'm not going to rank a team that lost higher than the team that they lost to. So I would change it to BYU at 17, followed by Baylor at 19. That's how I would change it. That's how I would expect to see it. But Florida at 20, they are looking terrible. They're just looking straight terrible. I'll get more into their look once I get into the conference plays and stuff like that. Wake Forest at 21, and there's so much disrespect on this ranking. It's undeniable. There's so much disrespect on Wake Forest for the fact that you have Clemson at 5, whose offense is atrocious. NC State, they can barely beat these low-end Sun Belt teams, FCS teams, small FBS schools. They can barely beat them, but you got them all the way at 12. You want to rank Baylor and BYU at 17 and 19. Washington State, they were unranked the week before, but hey, you know what? They beat a top 15 team, so we're going to put them over Wake Forest. There's so much disrespect on Wake Forest. I am a true believer in Sam Hartman. I love what he's been able to do, how he came back in week 2, his 3 touchdown performance. So he did 3 more this weekend too. I mean, just the way Wake Forest is playing, I can see them being in the ACC championship. I can see them knocking off number 5 Clemson. I can see them beating number 12 NC State. There's not really too many guys in the ACC that I can see them losing to. But I'll get, like I said, I'm going to break down the whole conference, who I see in what conference being the top guys and who's winning, who I'm predicting to finish the season in the championship. And I'll get into all that later on. Texas A&M, I respect the ranking. Texas A&M did lose to Appalachian State. So, you're not going to move up too high in the rankings until you show, like, you can still win games. You beat Miami, that's good, but Miami don't have that strong of a schedule, and they didn't have no, real tough opponents. So, how legit were they, we really don't know, because they end up losing Texas A&M, and Texas A&M's resume right now. Texas, higher than Texas A&M, I totally respect, because they almost beat Alabama. So, I like that. Pitt at 24. You lost to Tennessee, but you have 1 game, so I respect that. That's the AP's top 25. I don't like it. There's just too... 1 through 10, I can deal with. 11 through 25, there's just too much there that shouldn't be there that I just don't like. And one school they just keep living out is North Carolina. Okay, so you're going to leave Texas A&M and Miami in. Both teams that got a loss. But you're going to leave Florida in, who only won by 3 to South Florida this past weekend. But you're going to leave out North Carolina. Okay, that's... But you're going to let Ole Miss in, who they played? Nobody. You're going to have NC State ranked in the top 13. Who do they play? Or top 15? Who they played? Nobody. Okay? So, why can't North Carolina get in? And I don't get it. So, my top 25. This is the way I rank my teams. This is who I got in my top 25. Your top 3 don't change. It's UGA, Alabama, Ohio State. Now, here's the changes. Number 4 is Oklahoma. I was thinking about putting USC, but I like Oklahoma a little bit more. I like their run game a little bit more. I feel like their offense is slightly a little bit better. Followed by Michigan at 5, USC at 6, Clemson at 7. You got, and see, that's my top 7 right there. I dropped Clemson completely out the top 5. They're moving on down. They're not in the top 5. Michigan rounds that out. Now USC, they keep playing the way they're playing. They're going to jump Michigan in my rankings, depending on how Michigan plays against Maryland. Then Kentucky at 8, Oklahoma State at 9, Arkansas at 10. So, 8 through 10 don't really change. Really and truly, 8 through 11 don't change on mine. Number 12 is Utah, followed by Penn State at 13. So I jumped Penn State up a ranking. I moved Utah up a ranking. But at 14, this is the biggest change, the highest jump compared to the AP poll. Wake is at 14. Wake Forest is at my 14 spot. I think they're the better ACC squad. I think they have, well, compared to NC State, North Carolina, I think Wake Forest has the better opportunity. They have a more experienced quarterback. They're going to be the ones to give Clemson the challenge. Do I think Clemson is going to end up being in the ACC championship? They could be. They could be. But I think Wake Forest is that second team. I think they're the second best in the ACC. If not, Clemson and Wake Forest are going to battle it out. One of them teams are going to be one. Then I got Oregon at 15 because they beat a ranked 12 BYU team, and I do think their team is pretty good. Just you can't beat Georgia. That's the only thing I see on Oregon. You're not going to be able to beat Georgia. Then you got NC State at 16, Ole Miss at 17, Washington is at 18. Okay, so everyone kind of moves down. No disrespect to Ole Miss, but 19 and 20 is BYU and Baylor. 21 is Texas. 22 is Texas A&M. 23 is North Carolina, followed by Pitt and Miami at 24 and 25. See, Florida's out. After last week, they nearly won by 3 points. They only won by 3 points to South Florida. They got beat by Kentucky. They're falling off the hill. You know, they flew to the top of the hill and they were kicked off. And they haven't been able to find the rope yet. North Carolina, they've been playing good. And when, you know, I'm talking about ACC teams that could be high level competitors, North Carolina is one of those squads. And I'm going to get the whole ACC thing, conference champs, in a minute. But, so, there's this little segment that I want to do. And I don't know how I'm going to do it for the whole season. I don't know how I want to do it. I got ideas. And for the first couple episodes that I do it, I'm basically just going to describe the team. After I get done describing the team, I'm going to predict where I'm going to see them finish and why I don't believe in them. And then I want to give y'all the team after all that's done. Now, I'll probably move giving y'all the team until the end of the video. I'll reveal who the team was. And I'll ask, you know, do y'all agree with me? You know, leave it in comments, yada, yada, yada. Or comment on my, you know, go to my social media and, you know, just tell me I'm wrong, you're an idiot, or whatever you, or yeah, I believe what you believe. But I'm going to be working at it. It's not a finished product by no means. But the new segment I'm going to add in is the frauds of college football. And every week I'm going to pick one or two teams that are turning into frauds, and I see them being the biggest frauds of that week or the biggest fraud. And at the end of the year, I'm going to, you know, see how many of them I was right on. So, y'all can probably already guess the team that I'm going to talk about this week, because I've already shit on most of the video already. They're a top 15 team. Their quarterback play is some of the worst in the conference. They have a trouble time on building any type of lead in the first half. And they have yet to play a top 25 team, but yet their quarterback cannot throw for over 60%. Okay. And see, the way this team is playing, if they keep playing like this and their quarterback keeps playing like this and their running game cannot get started, they're not winning their conference. And I'll give y'all a really big hint. They're from the ACC. I've talked a lot about this conference today. This is honestly one of the weaker conferences in college football. And for them to be as high as they are, with the way their quarterbacks, I should have seen this team drop by now. But they haven't, and for whatever reason, college football voters and they people just loves this team. They're not winning a championship whatsoever. That's my prediction on them. But the team I'm talking about is Clemson. DJ has not thrown for over 60% yet this season. He averages a 60% completion rating. I think it's 55 actually percent completion rating on the season. The run game cannot get started. They only had a 7-point lead to Louisiana Tech last week. They could barely get the game going against Georgia Tech in week 1. And when this conference play starts and they start having to play these teams, it is going to look terrible. It's going to look disgusting. And I just don't see them going anywhere in the ACC. Now, like last week, this is my favorite part of my videos. It's the favorite part of my podcast. Because it's my Heisman. It's my Heisman watch. So this is a segment that I started last week. Basically, for anyone who has not seen it yet, every single week, I'm going to come out and I'm going to give you my top 6 Heisman guys. The guys that I have on my Heisman watch. This is my guys. This is my list. This isn't made from college guys. This is the guys I go look at and I put on my list. Last week, it was KJ Jefferson. It was Caleb Williams, Raheem Sanders, Drake May, Tyler Van Dyke, and Chase Brown. Those are my 6 guys from last week. Now, coming into this week, I'm actually going to rank them this time. Coming into this week, Caleb Williams. So coming into this week, my number 1 on my Heisman watch is Caleb Williams. He has my number 1 spot. He didn't disappoint when it came to Fresno State. He played good. He did what he was supposed to do. Now, that's a little bit tougher of a team than what Stanford is, in my opinion. But he's still rolling. He's rolling out in Heisman season. He keeps playing the way he's playing. He's definitely going to be in that top 3 at the end of the year. Number 2 and number 3 are both running backs. So Raheem Sanders comes in at 2, and Chase Brown comes in at 3. These guys have been 2 of the best running backs in all of college football. When I think of running backs, I think of reliability, high productivity. They can receive the ball, they can rush the ball. They're powerhouses. They're elusive. They're full package. Raheem Sanders, he's the full package. Without a doubt, he is beyond the full package. He's the best running back in the SEC. He's the best running back in the country, in my opinion. But Chase Brown is not far off of being the second best in all of college football. I like what both them guys have been able to put on. They've been playing really good against their in-conference teams. They played extremely well against out-of-conference teams. These 2 guys are the staples of their offense, and I have them in my 2 and 3. 4, it has to be my boy Drake May. Drake May has played phenomenal so far. It's like almost 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns to 1 interception. He has been playing phenomenal. He's 74% completion passing rating, or completion rating, my bad. He's been playing extremely well. Tyler Van Dyke has fallen out of my top 6. The only reason why I say he's fallen, he can always rise back up. KJ Jefferson, he's still there. He's in my number 5 spot. I didn't like his play against Missouri State, but he's put on too good of a show so far throughout the first couple weeks of the season for me to really throw him out. The way he played against South Carolina, the way he's played against Cincinnati. And yes, those teams aren't Alabama and Georgia. They're not Ohio State and Michigan. I get that. But they have still did, pretty good. And I hold Cincinnati to a pretty good standard. I don't find them to be like every other Sun Belt team or Group of 5 team. I feel like Cincinnati, when it comes to teams in the Group of 5, teams that are better among the rest, Cincinnati is definitely one of those teams. Now, they're having a pretty tough time so far this year, but, you got to regroup when you lose a lot to the NFL. But other than that, I like how KJ's performed. Missouri State, that's hurting his case. Now, he keeps having games like that. He's definitely out. He's going to fall out of it. And that's just how it's going to be. And it's college football. You have guys who you never look at, and then all of a sudden, one week they're the best quarterback, best running back, the best receiver that week, and that stardom it continues and it carry on. Or for first 4 weeks of the season, the quarterback's the best one in the country, and all of a sudden he has one bad game and it carries to the rest of the season. He just doesn't play like he was at the beginning. And that's just how it is. But to finish out my Heisman watch list, at number 6, I've been debating if I was going to add him in or who should I add in, because it was a real close one. And am I going to add CJ or do I want to add Stinson? And it was a big toss-up. Who do I want in my Heisman watch? And I gave it to Stinson. At the end of the day, Stinson has played better ball against higher level teams. He averages almost 300 yards a game. He's starting for 75% completion on the season. Already has 6-7 passing touchdowns. I mean, this guy is playing extremely well. Hasn't turned the ball over. Reads the field better than a lot of quarterbacks in the country right now. He's very mobile. He takes hits. He likes to get down there. He plays extremely well. I like how he's able to carry this young offense who's, they're having to bring guys in. These guys are having to step up from losing last year. Now, the offense isn't as young as the defense, without a doubt. There's a lot of guys that returned on offense compared to the defense. But you still don't have, 3-4 years of experience in your receiving core or your tight ends. So, Stinson Bennett's done a really good job on leading that squad. Now, CJ, obviously, I left him out. He's right there. He's in my rising. He's rising up to the challenge. Washington's quarterback, Penix Jr. This is another guy that is rising up my board. Now, I'm not just going to throw him in there because he has 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. I actually got to watch him play. The reason why Drake May's in there is because I've been watching him play. He's a good pocket quarterback. He's really mobile. He does good at reading the ball. He doesn't just try to throw it in the coverage. Now, does he make miscues? Most definitely. But compared to these guys, and the reason why I have them ranked in this order, is because these are the guys that I've spent more time watching. I spent more time watching Caleb Williams than KJ Jefferson and Raheem Sanders and Chase Brown. I'm not perfect. These lists are not going to agree with everybody. But these are the guys that I've watched. These are the guys I've seen. These are the guys that I think are better than everyone else in college football. And it could change, and you have risers and you have fallers, like I said. But, so, at the end of the day, that's my top 6 for Heisman watch. Do I really want Stinson Bennett to keep this level of productivity up, most definitely. I want to see Caleb Williams keep this up, because at the end of the season, when it's all said and done, there's 3 guys without a doubt that I believe that's going to be the finalists in Heisman. That's Caleb Williams, and C.J. Stroud. Now, C.J. Stroud, he's going to continue what he's been doing, and he's going to move up. K.J. Jefferson continues what he was doing in the first 2 weeks. He's going to be in there. There's a lot of quarterbacks right now that has put on a case. And it's hard for me to put them all in there, so I really got to choose who I believe has the better chance. Right now, K.J. Jefferson has the better resume. Then C.J. Stroud. Caleb Williams, on the other hand, has probably just as impressive resume as K.J. Jefferson, and he's played a little bit better ball than K.J. Jefferson. So, that's why he's up there. Same thing with Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett has a slightly better resume than CJ, but that's only because of the competition to play. That's the only reason. So once CJ starts playing, Big Ten competition and he starts demolishing them, then he's going to obviously move up my board, and a couple guys are going to start falling down because, no one, and everything, it's just, college football is crazy. That's why I love it. And I really hope these videos and the podcasts I put out, y'all enjoy it. So, next week, I'm going to put out my Week 4 recap, my top 25 for Week 5. This is my list for my top 25 for Week 4. I'm going to have my top 25 for next week, my Heisman watch, all that good stuff. Everything that I'm doing today, y'all going to have for tomorrow or next week. Now, Friday, I'm going to try to compile a NFL video together. I'm going to just recap the first 2 weeks of the season, where I see certain guys being put at, how I see certain teams falling. Are they going to continue to fall? Are they going to, what teams are rising? Are they going to continue that momentum? The players I've been most impressed with so far. My first NFL podcast is just going to be a big overview of the first 2 weeks of the season. It's not going to be that long or that in-depth. But to everyone who is watching and listening, thank you. All the support is very much appreciated. And thanks. Peace out.